Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you jump on here live here on this Thursday evening, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure you give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. Tonight we're going to talk some college football, and then we're going to talk some NFL. First, a couple of things that I noticed off the top of my head when the NFL schedule was officially released last night. Hey there, Marcus. Glad to have you here. Back on Monday. Hey there, Keveron. Glad to have you here. Back on Monday, there was some things that leaked out, and they announced a game here and a game there, but it was last night when the entire schedule officially came out. And of course, I didn't write it all down, but just a couple things I noticed by looking at it. One was the fact that, there's only 3 teams that do not have a primetime game at all this year. And 2 of those teams are the Titans and the Browns. And that caught my attention because, for one, with the Browns not having any primetime games, that tells you that even though they made a big deal out of him not going in the first round, nobody is clamoring to watch Shedeur Sanders play, because if the NFL thought anybody cared about Shedeur Sanders playing, the Browns would have a primetime game. And the Titans caught my attention because they just had the number 1 pick. And generally, this day and time, the way the NFL is, when you're first overall draft pick, you're going to play and pretty much play right away. So you would think that as good as Cam is, him going first overall, that would give the Titans at least, by default, 1 primetime game. So that tells you that the NFL thinks the Titans are going to be just as bad as they were last year. Another thing that got my attention was the Falcons are hosting 5 primetime games this year. Now, the Falcons have not made the playoffs since 2017. The last 4 years, they won 7 games, 7 games, 7 games, and 8 games. And that was kind of intriguing when I saw that, because Vegas has set the Falcons over-under win total at 7.5. So with the NFL giving them 5 primetime games, that tells you either the NFL disagrees with Las Vegas and they think the Falcons are going to win more than 7.5 games, because you're not going to put a team in primetime if you think they're going to be that bad 5 times. Or the NFL thinks that Michael Penix and Bijan Robinson are just that fun to watch, because when you put games in primetime, it's either a team that you think is going to be really good or a team that has a player that's fun to watch. So either the NFL thinks Penix is going to be fun to watch, or they think the Falcons are going to surpass that over-under win total. I think the Falcons could surpass it, but 9 wins maybe. We know what the Falcons are by now. They've done this for almost a decade. I don't care who they draft, who plays where. Until I see differently, the Falcons are going to be about a 9-win team every year. That's what they are. Don't get too excited about them, because if they win 10 games, that'll be a success, especially the fact that Raheem Morris is a terrible head coach. He's the only man in the NFL or college football that does nothing on game day. I'm not even sure why the guy's on the sidelines. He doesn't talk to any of the players. He doesn't associate with them at all, does not communicate, writes nothing down, doesn't point, carries no clipboard. He just stands there like a statue for 3 hours. The only coach that does nothing on game day He's an absolute travesty and a joke of a head coach. Earlier in the week, I heard an interview. He said the only way to change that is to change that. That might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, we know the only way to change it is to change it, but how do you change it? You can't just say the only way to change it is to change it. You have to say how you're going to change it. You don't change it by saying you're going to change it. Hey there, Vilma. Glad to have you here. Now, in the world of college football, Bill Belichick, at this rate, might not make it through 1 year as the head coach of North Carolina. Has not coached a game yet, and people are already wanting him out. If North Carolina goes 4-8 or 5-7, he'll probably get fired. And a guy that used to work for ESPN, I'm not sure who he works for now, but his name is Pablo Torre. And Pablo Torre has been writing articles about 3 weeks now about the whole Bill Belichick saga and all the stuff going on with his girlfriend. I'm not really sure what he's trying to accomplish because, yeah, Bill's girlfriend's a lot younger than him, but as long as she wants to date older men, she can. It's not like she's underage. She's an adult. And before Bill Belichick, she had a 62-year-old boyfriend. If she likes older men, she likes older men. Pablo Torre tried to come out and say, yeah, when they got together, she was 19. Who cares? She's still of age. If she's 19, that's her choice. I'm not sure what the big deal is, but there's all this stuff going on with North Carolina and Bill Belichick. If he doesn't go at least 7-5, he might get shown the door. But I'm going to do a separate video about all the games coming up on Saturday, August 30th, because we know there's always a full slate of games that day that start at noon. Earlier this week, they pretty much told you what's going to be the best game at noon, the best game at 3:30, and the best game at 7:30. And just a little heads up about that video when I do it. The game at 7:30 that night features the only team in college football that matters. But we'll do a separate video about that today. I want to talk about some of the games on opening weekend that are not on that Saturday. And just like last year, we're going to have a few games on, I guess you want to call it week 0 like last year, you can. That's on Saturday, August the 23rd. And on that day, just like last year, 4 or 5 games. Really, it's teams that are either not any good or just average. But you put them on this day because the diehard fans will watch them because they're the only teams on. Whereas any other time, you wouldn't watch any of these teams play. But on August 23rd, we've got Stanford and Hawaii, Fresno State, and Kansas. And just going by memorization, I'm almost positive last year, week 0, we saw Hawaii and Fresno State, and I believe Stanford too. Sam Houston State and Western Kentucky, and also Kansas State and Iowa State. Now, Hawaii and Stanford, Fresno State and Kansas, and Sam Houston State and Western Kentucky have not had a game time announced yet, but the Kansas State-Iowa State game has been announced as noon on August 23rd, so that will be the first official college football game of 2025. And then on Thursday, August 28th, which is a big day in my world, it'd be my grandpa's 85th birthday if he was still alive. But on Thursday, August 28th, there's a slew of games, just like there was last year on that opening Thursday night. But the big-time game that Thursday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, we have Nebraska and Cincinnati, year number 2 for Satterfield at Cincinnati. I believe it's year number 2. Year number 2 for Matt Rule at Nebraska, and Dylan Raiola being their quarterback. And also brand new OC for Nebraska, Dana Holgorsen. He's had a pretty good career as an OC. Terrible head coach, but pretty good OC. And then that Friday, August 29th, the big time game that night is Georgia Tech at Colorado. And then coming up the day after the big time opening day, which we'll talk about later, is Sunday, August 31st, 3:30 in the afternoon. And Okie, you're right. Dana is a great OC, but awful head coach. But, that's not a slight against him. There's, a ton of guys that you can look at on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, that are great coordinators. And once they become head coaches, they're terrible. But, you never know how good of a coach somebody can be or how bad they're going to be until you give them a shot. If it works out, you're a hero. If it doesn't, you're an idiot. But you don't know until you give them a shot. But on August 31st, 3:30, we have Virginia Tech in South Carolina. Hey there, Eddie. Glad to have you here. And I believe that's a neutral site game. And then at 7:30 on that Sunday, we have Notre Dame visiting the Miami Hurricanes. And then Monday night, as always, college football wraps up their first week with the Labor Day night prime time game. 8 o'clock that night is the TCU Horned Frogs and the North Carolina Tar Heels. And I wonder why North Carolina is not supposed to be any good, but yet they get the primetime spot on Labor Day night. Oh, that's right, because Bill Belichick is their head coach, and I personally think TCU beats them pretty easily, but I guess we'll find out. And as I said, we'll do a separate video talking about that Saturday, August 30th, because this is just some of the games on week 0 and all the days from week 1 except for that Saturday. Marcus, I believe Clemson will be. I think Clemson has a legit shot to win the national championship. If you ask me right now who plays for the national title, I say Clemson and Penn State. I think Georgia will be, but I think it's because of what they've done in the past. I think Georgia takes a step back this year. I'm personally not a big fan of Gunnar Stockton, but Alabama, to me, loses at least 4 games, so Alabama won't even be in the top 15, maybe not in the top 20. They'll lose at least 4 games this year. Thank you for asking. I am doing fantastic, Austin, as always. Thank you so much for checking in and commenting. Austin, I appreciate it. But these are just some of the games on opening weekend, with the exception of that Saturday, because that Thursday, really, truly, there's about 20 games. But I think the only game anybody's going to want to watch that Thursday is Nebraska and Cincinnati. But, that opening weekend now, there's very, very, very few games on that Saturday that are just no good. It used to be, for almost everybody, week 1 was when you played one of your Patsy schools, either a low group of 5 team, or you played a Division 1AA, now FCS team. And then week 2, you started playing real competition. Well, now it's getting to where almost everybody plays, a really, really, really good group of 5 team or a great Power 4 conference team in week 1. And then in week 2, the last few years, the schedule has been awful. So instead of playing garbage teams in week 1 and good teams in week 2, now we're getting good games in week 1, and then we only get a handful of games in week 2. So you get all excited about college football, and then the opening weekend is good, and then by the second weekend you look at the schedule and you're like, Man, this weekend sucks. So we'll talk more about that Saturday coming up at another day and time. But I know college football, being that August 23rd there's games, it's barely over 100 days away, so it's coming on us pretty quick. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. But let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I was going to tell a duck joke. They quack me up. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of three. You too, Okie, and I'm assuming, Okie, that you're the same person that's been commenting, not in the live videos, but after they're posted later on about Oklahoma State. If that's you, thank you so much for checking in live and come back and be with us again. It's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of three. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.